Hello and welcome back to Eurovision. We're very excited to have you here for our first review of 2022's Eurovision series, and we're kicking off with the UK. So the question is, will this song be taking us into outer space? Yes, so as I said, today we're talking about the UK's entry for Eurovision this year. Now, let's be honest, the elephant in the room. Last year, we bombed. We did absolutely awful. We were at the bottom of the leaderboard. We had no votes at all. I mean, quite frankly, it couldn't have got any worse. And poor old James Newman, with his song Embers, was sort of, left it very dignified. But, all of us sitting at home, I think, nearly fell in a hole. It was awful. So we're hoping this year that we can improve on that. And we've got a brilliant song, I think, in my opinion, with Spaceman and Sam Ryder. Let's take a listen. I'm up in space, Right, so let's take a little look then at what we thought of that and how we think it's going to do. Let's cross over to you first, Emily. What do you think about this year's UK entry?
I mean, the issue with this year's entry is that you're kind of coming into it going, well, surely it can't do any worse than last year, which is kind of automatically puts it on kind of a better footing. I obviously felt very sorry for James last year, and personally, it wasn't a great song on reflection. I don't think it deserved to come last. I don't think it deserved nil point. But yeah, this year's entry is quite interesting actually, because it has there's been a lot of kind of speculation around it for quite a few months, I think, here in the UK. And obviously Sam Ryder has kind of a massive TikTok following. So whether he'll kind of do well with especially kind of younger voters will be quite interesting to see. The song itself, for me personally, it's fine. The problem I have is that it sounds like a Eurovision song, which probably means that it won't do kind of great. I do think there's kind of quite a bit of staging potential with it, because if you're having this kind of spacey concept, there's a lot that you can kind of do with that when you kind of hit in the chorus and you have some lovely kind of background lights exploding, blah blah blah. So I think there is definitely staging potential. As an entry, I think it's a decent effort, but I'm so kind of disillusioned with the UK's Eurovision entries that I don't want to let myself get excited for it, essentially. So the fact that it's doing well with the bookies, doesn't have that much kind of impact on how I view it. But yeah, it's a nice song. It's it can go on my playlist, but
Yeah, I think that's sort of going to be the overall feel this year. Jack, do you think we could finally get on the left-hand side of the board this year?
Left-hand side, I don't know. I think it's going to be more a mix. It's really, really hard to say, because it is a good song. I think it's better than the types of things that we normally send. I think Embers was really unfortunate because that was better than what we normally send. We put effort into it. The problem was everyone else put in a lot more effort into it, and the staging just wasn't up there. So I'm not surprised we came last. 0 points is unfair, and I will say that until the end of time. We shouldn't have got no points. Last, I'm not surprised at. I think it was just unfortunate for him that it was such a strong year. This is a much weaker year. I think there are not 26 songs that deserve to be in the final. So if we come last this year, we might as well quit. Like, genuinely, there's no point, because there are plenty worse songs than this. The song itself, when I first heard it, I was pleasantly surprised by it. I thought, well, actually, this is quite good. And after one listen, it was in my head. I sort of remembered, I couldn't sing it, but the tune was in my head. And I think that is the immediacy of it is something that we've not really always had. And even with Embers, which I still enjoy listening to, it's something to have on, but there's nothing that immediately sticks with you. There's not a hook that sort of just latches on, whereas I think there is with this. The issue is, I've sort of listened to it the past week and a half now since it was released, and I've got it on my Spotify playlist. I've downloaded it. I'm already starting to skip it. So when it comes on, I'm like, okay, no. And I've not over listened to it. I've not under listened to it. I've just listened to it as much as the rest of the songs in that playlist in my downloads, and I'm already sort of I've explored everything I feel like I can explore. That's what's such a joy about the songs that I love, is that no matter how many times you listen to them, I never ever get bored, and there's always something new to hear in it. This, I feel like I've heard it all now. It's like a pancake. It's quite wide, but it's quite thin. And once you've actually chiseled through, you're hitting the plate quite soon. So I think it's maybe because this is a song contest that you hear it once and then that's it. Maybe this is the way it should be. You want something that's more immediate, and then that sticks in people's mind and people vote for it. But this is certainly not a Eurovision classic by any means. So it's mixed feelings about it. It's an improvement on what we have sent. It's certainly better than Electro Velvet. I watched that the other day, almost hurled myself out of the taxi. It was, oh God, it makes me feel ill to the thought of it. But at least it's better than that. But it's not groundbreaking, I'd say.
Yeah, I think that's very fair, because I think the UK at the moment, if it's pleasantly memorable, I think that's kind of where we probably need to be. The majority of people who watch Eurovision aren't kind of mega fans like us who will sit and listen to all the songs on repeat. So the fact that we're getting a bit bored of it a couple of listens in doesn't necessarily mean that it'll do badly kind of in the final. Because a lot of people will be hearing it for the first time, and if they do something good with the staging, it could be memorable. It doesn't matter that it doesn't have that kind of lasting effect of, oh, I want to listen to this again and again and again, as long as it's kind of good on the night, if that makes sense. So I think, yeah, completely agree. For fans, it's kind of, it'll lose its impact quite quickly, but in terms of the contest, we might be all right. Dare I say, we might be all right.
Yeah, I think I very much agree with what both of you said there. And I think it'll be interesting because, like Jack was saying, and Emily as well, there's so many different aspects about this year. We don't quite know what sort of feel Eurovision this year will have and how voting could change. And so I think that'll play a big factor. But also, like Emily was saying, the whole TikTok aspect, I think, is something completely new, because I think you saw with Iceland's entry, that it went so far on TikTok, it absolutely exploded. And I think it'd be interesting to see if they're trying to get in on that, because I think perhaps somebody in the UK is probably going, well, actually, TikTok seemed to do well for them, could it do well for us? I quite like the song. I think it's all right. I mean, it's pretty much the first UK entry that I think I've actually liked since maybe Suri and Storm. I really like that one. I mean, Jack obviously didn't like it. I liked it.
Okay.
I think her stage invasion aside, it was one of my favourites. That and Scooch with Flying the Flag. But that kind of probably sets my bar. But no, I pleasantly like this one. It's if a different country had done this, I would say, do you know what, I actually quite like that. And so I think that's usually a good sign for the UK, because sometimes it's crap that nobody wants and nobody would pick. And so it's nice that this year we've got that. And, like I said, I think it'll be interesting to see how that plays out and whether we can get past, I think, the politics side of it, which, is the elephant in the room, and actually get some votes off the back of it, because I think that would be really great this year. Whereabouts could you see it placing? Do you think it would actually get to the left-hand side? Do you think it could even get within the top 10? What are your thoughts, Emily?
I think the chances of it getting into the top 10 are probably quite small, because, it's the UK and there's just a lot of politics at play. And so I think kind of we'd have to send something absolutely knockout at the moment to get onto the left-hand side of the board. I think it's definitely an improvement. So I hope that kind of other countries appreciate that. I hope we actually get some points of Ireland. That would be nice. Or kind of our other kind of regional neighbours. I'd hope for maybe kind of a 17th place territory. I don't think it'll quite do as well as Lucy Jones in 2017, but I'm hopeful, but yeah.
Yeah, I think that's quite interesting, actually. What are your thoughts, Jack?
Yeah, that was the comparison that I was going to make. I think that the benchmark of how good a UK entry is sort of Lucy Jones now. Yeah, I think around 15th is probably the best that we can hope for with this. I don't think it's going to be left-hand side of the scoreboard. It just needs the right staging, because Embers was a decent song. The staging was abysmal. And I think if we go back to, if we have a moment in the staging like Lucy Jones had with the sort of the shell and it booms, that's what was memorable, and that's what you stick in the recap. If you have something like that, I think the top of the right-hand side is certainly feasible, and that is an improvement on last. Is this the next Eurovision winner? No. But it's getting out the bottom 5 is an achievement after coming last 2 years in a row. So I think good on him for doing it. And I think it's certainly a step in the right direction. You know, we've picked someone who has got 12 million followers on TikTok. He's got more followers than Ed Sheeran on TikTok, for God's sake. He is, in TikTok world, he is quite a big name. So it's encouraging that that somebody with like him is, you know, stepping up to the plate. So I wish him all the best, but he's not going to come last. I'm certain about that.
Yeah, and I think what's going to be interesting as well, because last year I quite liked Embers. Listening to it was quite catchy and it sounded really good. But I think the problem was, as soon as he went on stage, he was flat as a pancake. And I think that what has to happen is they need to make sure that that is not the case this year, and that it's a much stronger song in the live arena, because at the end of the day, that's what matters. But we're keen to hear what you think too. So be sure to comment below what you think. Do you agree or disagree with any of us in particular, or just overall with what we've said? Would be great to hear from you. Also, make sure that you subscribe and like the video if you enjoyed it, and check out our social channels too. You can find us all on social media too. So if you want to follow us, feel free to. We'll see you with another video tomorrow.